give them clear understanding of what the objectives are. And the thing to watch out for is in terms of the focus is, again, as I was just mentioning the previous slide, the issue of distraction. People who are easily distracted go off and spend 4 hours researching some sort of trivial bug. Also, just people who, are too focused for too long, I guess, who don't every now and then back away from things and go, have I maybe just been doing this long enough and maybe I should move on to something else? I'll try to illustrate this with an anecdote. We had a project running once, years ago when I was a test manager on an operating system project, and we had this guy, this tester, very dedicated tester, good guy for the most part. So, I'm going to bring up one bad thing he did, and this is out of a million things that he did that were great. But anyway, this guy, on one Saturday morning, this gives you an indication of how the project was going. One Saturday morning, he had found some sort of bug, and he was trying to isolate this bug. And so I come in there, and it's around, 11 o'clock or something. I come into the test lab, and he's there. He's working on this bug report, and he's plowing through this octal dump of the core dump that had happened. The operating system had crashed. So he's there, he's looking at it, and the two system administrators are there. Now, the two system administrators, the reason they're there on Saturday is that they are supposed to install the latest release starting Saturday morning. And it pretty much takes all weekend to get it done and check it out and so forth, so that by Monday morning you can have confidence that the test team that's coming in on Monday morning, in this case, all 18 of them, would be able to proceed and do some testing. They wouldn't be sitting there waiting for hours, because if you have a team that size and you lose a whole morning, you're talking about like 2-person weeks of lost effort, basically, if they're sitting there twiddling their thumbs. So it's it's a major risk. And anyway, so here's this guy sitting there looking at this bug report, or looking at this octal dump, working on this bug report. Here are the two system administrators who are kibitzing with him and talking about stuff, and I'm sure it was important stuff. But then, so I asked the guy, "What are you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm working on a bug report." And how long have you been working on it? Well, pretty much all morning. And then so I said, "So where are we on the install?" I said to the two system administrators, and they're like, "Well, we haven't started yet because we're waiting for them to get finished." And I said, "Well, he's working on one computer. There are a number of other computers in this test network. Don't you think we ought to get started installing those so that we're ready to go on Monday?" And they're like, "Oh, yeah, right, we should do that." So, this guy was running down the rabbit path, if you will, after this bug, and it was an important bug. I'm not questioning his need to work on that. But the problem was that he had pulled these other guys in, and they'd allowed themselves to get pulled in, and it was creating a risk, significant project risk, that we were going to lose, as I said, potentially 2-person weeks of effort on a Monday morning when everybody came in and they were sitting around waiting for this environment to be set up. So, these are the kinds of things that you want to look at. You want to look at, people's judgment, their ability to focus effectively, things to explore when you're considering a tester. Okay, so attitude. Attitude's important. Now let's move on to skills, because that's critical too. We got to get someone with the right attitude, but we also get somebody that's got the right skills when we're hiring. Now, let me say some skills that are, I think, completely obvious, but might potentially be overlooked. A good tester needs to know how to read and write. Now, I'm not being sarcastic with this, because I actually mean something a little bit more in-depth, more intensive than what you might need for other individual contributor positions or manager positions in a software team. So when I'm hiring a tester, I expect them to be able to read a requirement specification or a design specification with an eye to detail that goes beyond what a business analyst requirements engineer or a developer might have. So this would include things like noticing inconsistencies between statements on completely different pages in the same document, or indeed different documents that are related. So, noticing that there's an inconsistency between a high-level design specification and a business requirement specification. That's the kind of thing that I would expect a tester to be able to do. I expect them to be able to carefully read emails and respond appropriately to them. I expect them to be able to read and follow test cases, and when they deviate from test cases, be able to document that they did that. They should, of course, be able to write a test case. They should be able to write a good bug report, and that's a whole separate topic, which I believe I've discussed in a previous webinar. If not, I'll do it in a subsequent one. Creating of other test documentation, they should know what needs to be written down and what doesn't need to be written down. I don't expect testers to spend all of their time writing documentation. They should write effective documents, short, targeted, concise kind of things. Now, this reading and writing capabilities, I want to point out this is not necessarily I'm not insisting on perfect English here, assuming that your project team uses English or whatever the project language is. This is not about being, Gustave Flaubert here and picking the exact right word on a sentence, but I do want people to be able to pick words that are non-inflammatory when they're writing emails and bug reports, of course. I want them to be precise in terms of things where precision matters, like descriptions of failure symptoms and so forth. Those are the kinds of things that I'm looking for. Now, in some cases, you have a need for statistics or other mathematical knowledge, though that's usually confined to a few narrow types of testing positions like reliability testing and performance testing and so forth. I'm going to look for that. But I think generally we can say above and beyond basic professional attributes like reading and writing, we also want to look at things like technology skills, project skills, and testing skills. So by technology, I mean an understanding of programming languages and the underlying technologies with which the application under test is being built, which many times is going to include these days networking and HTML and web and those sort of things. Now, I don't necessarily expect the tester to be as technical in their knowledge as a programmer, but I do have to say that with the rise of Agile and other just the increasing complexity even on traditional lifecycle models, it is making it more and more important that testers be more technical. So, we've just come out with our Advanced Technical Test Analyst course, and we're getting a huge response to that. So this is clearly a lot of interest here about being more technical. So I would encourage you as a manager to, if your team is weak technically, and I'll show you in a minute how you would know, look to hire people that fill that gap, because this seems to be a pretty common problem in a lot of our organizations that are doing their IT organizations. They're building software for their own purposes. And the other thing is that project-related and application-related application domain knowledge is also an important skill area. So if you're in banking, then you should know about banking, right? Now, I'm not necessarily saying that everybody should be